Hey everyone, I'll be starting the actual video part of the video in just a second. I'm just getting all the links up and everything. So thank you for watching if you're watching. If you're not, then in the future, thank you, future you, for watching later. Okay, I think that I've posted this and shared this like literally every way that I possibly can on those two things. Oh, no, what? You know what? I forgot on Twitter. Should we do that? Yes, we should. Okay, I think we're actually ready, and I'm actually testing this out without the intro song that I want to use of mine because Facebook flagged it because UMG told them to, and that was silly. But I have a point to make here, so I'm not going to lose any time or sleep over that for now because we got other cool things to do. So, as you can probably tell from the title, wanting to go over some stuff about VCA compressors. And I'm going to break this down to kind of do like another video where I give an overview. What are VCAs? You know, what do they kind of sound like? I posted an article on Facebook that I thought covered it pretty well from Vintage King. And, you know, they obviously know their compressors. They sell the really nice hardware stuff. So, and it's because of a love of the hardware that I do what I do. You know, I don't come from the software hoping that it's going to sound right compared to hardware. I come from a history of the real analog stuff, hoping to find a way to translate it so that we can stay inside of the recording process, inside of digital audio workstations and all that kind of stuff, while keeping the sound real. Keep it real, clearly defined sound. Yeah, I'll do an overview video for VCA compressors and what they're all about. And maybe a little bit just the difference of what might be a good track compressor or instrument compressor versus a bus compressor. And just generally speaking, the way I look at bus compressors is that they're really good at taking a slightly bigger picture and gluing it together. Not necessarily always a full mix, but always at least a bus of something more than just one sound, linear or percussive. And with a really great track compressor, it might make for a good bus comp. You know, everybody finds a specific kind of way to use different things. But being a good track compressor doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be very good on the bus. But I do think that being a good bus compressor, even though it's meant to work with more complex material and maybe be a little bit more transparent or give a very specific kind of tonality, by its very nature, I think that it should also be able to be interesting and expressive and useful as a track compressor, in case that wasn't clear. All right, so I believe that I have it to where I can see you guys if you are on YouTube. And I believe that I can see you guys if you are on Facebook. So we're going to find out how well that actually works pretty soon, I think. All right, so if anybody's around, I'm going to try to keep an eye on the Chatamadu thing to the right on the YouTube video. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to type them over there. If you don't know to do this, yes, absolutely. Please subscribe. Hit a thumbs up if you want to. Ring the bell so you get notifications when this stuff is happening. Hopefully all those things are actually taking place. Thank you, YouTube, for handling them for me, if you, in fact, are. If you're not, that would be unfortunate. Like, what am I doing? All right, so bus compression. 2016, I finished the process of a custom shop line, which I believe that what I'm going to do is to blanket put all these under the CDSoundMaster Artisan series, because things that are not mass-produced or mass-known rare items are kind of a special class unto themselves, and have the exciting opportunity to work with a lot of different things at different times. This was a very special bus VCA, not to be compared with anything really else out there. It's not an SSL, it's not a DBX. What was that, Joe Meek? That I can't remember if that was a tube or the SC. Anyway, it's not a brand, and it's not modeled after a brand. It's just a really good piece of electronics, really cool. It's a cool concept, a cool idea. And so basically it's broken down into two different formats, and I was able to edit and recreate especially the changes to those formats pretty nicely inside of the Nebula Aqua engine. So I've set up a session inside of Reaper, and we're going to test the sound here, make sure that we're running correctly, and this should work correctly. So I'm actually going to run a little bit of this awesome drum loop from our dear friend Michael Wickman. Amazing, amazing drummer. I'm a drummer too, so when a drummer is a fan of another drummer, that's a pleasant, awesome thing. But he's a really cool dude, great drummer. So I'm going to take a little bit of listen here and make sure I'm hearing what I need to hear. There's a delay, so give me a second. Okay, we should be good. All right, so great lick. So one thing I've noticed, and I mean this is something that could be a slight annoyance, but I promise you for the overall good, the way that I got these set up is in a loop, and it's a fairly short loop. But I love listening to other people's A/B test videos and before-after videos and these different things, comparing hardware to other hardware and hardware to plugins. But a phenomenon that I've noticed from the back-end side of things, as an engineer myself, when you are actually operating the knobs, making the changes to the controls yourself, you hear like the very most minute change immediately. Your hand is on it, and you mentally are aware of the change that you're making. So you know what to be expecting to happen, or you'll be very pleased or displeased at the use. That the listener who does not have their hands on the knobs is not really hearing the differences. They don't know what they're supposed to expect or what they're supposed to be listening for. So I am going to be intentionally going more to the extreme with these, and I'm going to stop and start a lot to point out what the changes are, so you know what it is that is spectacularly interesting, unique, different, fun about these settings. So I want you to actually hear something much more drastic than what you necessarily should be doing, but all the more reason. So something to me, compression, the fundamental purpose of a compressor is to be able to reduce gain. Now it's ironic because a lot of times, people think of just compressing mixes too heavily, they're compressing the life out of it, and they're doing that in order to win the loudness wars, to make things louder. Well, you know, the reason that we can reduce gain so that we don't have peaks, that's more of an analog thing. In digital, you have to work from the top down. You know, you cannot go over digital 0 for your final masters, so you should control it way ahead of that in the mixes. So anyway, with analog, we had more of there's a 0 point, which is unity gain, and then there's things that are allowed to be louder than that. But the more louder they are, the more it goes into distortion, and you don't really have a solid ceiling to that. So just little interesting points. So I'm going to play this. Well, let me go ahead and I'm going to get this opened up. I'm using this in N4, and I've already got my settings selected here. So the custom shop, CDSoundMaster custom bus VCA, setting 1 is the regular main route for the compressor. Over here, these are fixed. It is not an it auto leaving drive alone, and I'm gonna not do a lot of makeup gain there. So what you're focusing on is basically just how much compression based on the ratio and the threshold. I'll go into what those are if you are new to compression and don't know that stuff. And then because it does the changes that you make here at the input of the device are going to have a profound effect on how it compresses or how hard it compresses. So play it away, Michael Wickman. So I know it can be a little bit annoying to listen to the same thing over and over, but I want you to be able to really hone in on what this compressor is doing. So in mode 1, it should be able to smack pretty hard. Let's see. We're peaking at about negative 3.7. So I'm going to use this in mode 1. And as I pull the threshold down, the volume is going to go down slightly. Not really. Alright, so we came down from about negative 3.7 to negative 6-ish. So I'm going to set that there. And as I increase the ratio, the volume is going to go down as well. You're going to notice that. So I want to take it to an extreme so you can hear this thing just really doing its thing. And let's see what volume we're at now. A tiny bit louder. It'll be easier to just control this over here a little bit. Okay, so that's about the same. So here's without anything. Great articulation, but you'll notice that it doesn't have that extreme smack at the front end of the dynamics. So you can hear that it feels squeezed. There's a nice pop click to the front end. Good stuff. So this is more compression than you probably should use on a track like this, but I like the fact that it kind of pumps and breathes a little bit, but it sounds like it's supposed to be doing what it's doing. That's what I like about it. So I'm going to pull this back a little bit and not go so extreme. I like that with this compression you can hear a little bit more of the depth, things that resonate, rooms that sustain. You're going to hear more of that kind of stuff. It's very cool. So more of a natural sound, not as much compression. You really know the difference when you let off of it. And here we go again. Smack, smack, go smack, smack, smack. Going to have a deeper effect on the threshold. So, like, check this out. See, I like that when you can lock in on the rhythm because the compression is just so smack delicious. That's a good bit quieter, actually. You can hear that it doesn't grab it exactly the same for every single sound. So it's got some musical quality to it. It's very nice, very sensitive. Alright, so that's the first mode. Here's in... So it's not Chinese water torture with really good talent. Let's see, that's that one. So, you know what, I didn't change the mode there. So now we're going to. So 1B. And boom. Alright. And we are converting, it's using all harmonic distortion, and we are converting it to 44.1. It's been tested really well to retain everything you're listening for at 96, 88, 48 kilohertz, and 44.1 kilohertz. So now mode 2 is, pardon me, mode 2 is designed to give you a more fluid response, especially with things that compressors, analog compressors, have exactly the same problem that digital ones that tend to model them have, which is that they tend to distort or to kind of get garbled with too much low end, either too much volume, anything under about 120 hertz or 80 hertz, depending on the design, down to the real subs, 20, 40 hertz. And so instead of just cutting that out of the sensor, or not compressing that part, or actually EQing some of it out, you can change the way that the mode responds to that. So I'm going to let you hear a little bit about this. It's also a little bit tougher to hear, which is part of what makes it better for a bus. But once again, I like giving a little bit more extreme examples so you can really hear what the personality is like. When you have this hands-on, you're going to make much more subtle choices unless you don't, because gosh, it does actually sound pretty cool. So when you overdo it. Okay, so going to the extremes again. Did I set it? Yeah. Okay. You almost can't hear the same amount of compression happening until you go all the way down to where the sustain of the drums are. That volume, negative 40, almost 50. Right around there especially, I can hear it changing the tonality a little bit. Ba-dum, boom, pop. Ba-dum, boom, pop. Nice. So it's just a much smoother sound. If you want a little bit of the aggression, a little bit of the attitude, but you don't want it to sound like you're running it through an effect, you're really just enhancing the performance. And in this case, it's a really solid drummer, so you would want to do that sort of thing. So that lets you see those two settings on the drums. I'm actually going to save my clever little hip-hop beat loop for the third thing. I'm going to change over to something which is I love this bass loop. It's such a great example for stuff. I mean, it's cool for a song anyway. So go ahead and get this opened up. And I think I've got 1 and B. So yeah, okay. So we're good. All right, so here is the bass line, and if I am not mistaken, this is a really cool George Clinton funk bass that is part of a collection that I have purchased. I have every right to use because I have purchased this for the use of exactly this kind of thing. Boom, ba-doom-dum. So you've got the notes and the fact that they're in that lower register, and you got the pop and the click of the slap bass. So I mean, it's such a great example for this compressor. I love this. So I'll probably make some very geeking out kind of sounds to simulate the changes that are happening with my mouth. Yes, it's true. But I think that it'll be helpful for you to hear kind of the extreme change that this does with the bass. All the same device, I mean, we heard what it did with the drums. Now we're going to hear what it does with the bass. So first in mode 1, you can hear get a little bit of fizz when it's changing, it's adjusting. That is a digital thing, but once you're locked in, it's very cool. This one especially, if I were to use it in mode 1, I would take it to the extreme. It's very extreme, you know. What I like is that it grabs the you've really got the attack on the bass, so it's really changing the aggressive nature of the playing. It's less of the melody, less of the sustain. This is definitely more of what this compressor is designed to do with bass. Right here. Too, because it saturates real nice. So let's see. So that's about -4. So that's about the same right there. That boom, ba-dum, bump. That boom, ba-doo-ga-doo-doom. If I take it somewhere in the middle, a little bit less ratio and a little bit less threshold, you're going to hear where it's latching onto the sustained boom, and then when it lets off and re-triggers on those percussive notes, it just makes it a very lively performance. Where the other one was very, it changed it to much more aggressive. So I love what it does with bass. So check this out. Very, very, very different from this mode where we have, let's make sure it's working right. More percussive, and you can hear the zzz, you can hear those changes. Very cool. So let me see, I think that, let's see, am I getting any messages? I need to check. Watch this video with your friends. Okay, I don't see it. I think that I got messages. Let's see. Alright, so that's fun with that. Und sie go to. I'm going to change that off. And now clever hip hop, here we come. And once again, I've got, yes, I do, both modes. So this is, once again, you know, it's very percussive, but this is more of an example of, it is a little bit processed to begin with, but I thought it was a good example, hearing it as an actual bus on a bus. So you'll hear it latch on to almost immediately. There we go. Boom, boom, ba, boom, boom, ba. What I like is it has the same kind of personality when you go to the extremes. You know, it doesn't change to much more clicky like some VCAs do. So there's that mode. Now let's switch to the slightly smoother. And this really latches on, especially if you're having to do a lot of EQ, this works really nicely. You can really hear the smack. So you can imagine that running 2 of these in parallel sounds really sweet too. So there's without. And with. Alright, so that gives you some examples of the custom shop bus VCA. Think that you will like it. Hey, thank you, Hopefold. Very cool. That's going to be it for this one for now. I'm going to do just an overall VCA video. And what I like to do is to compare this to the Punch VCA, which is already available, and to the 160A, which is already available for Nebula Pro. And once I get this updated on the new website, I will send out a blast along with this video and give you a special deal for it. So I know you'll want to buy it once you hear it. So thank you so much for joining, and have a good Saturday. And in the future, have a good whatever day it is that you're watching this. All right. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for joining. And for now, Michael Angel out.